Thank you. The advantage of going last, of course, is that everybody actually has sold the message ahead of me. And it's quite nice, and I'm looking at some of the notes I've written down, and I've heard them all through the day. And the last one, which you just heard there, about opportunities. And I think that's probably one of the central themes of my talk, is looking at what the opportunities that disaster brings. The starting point, as you heard, is sort of utter devastation, but seemingly insurmountable challenges, not least of a stable structure. Stoke Rochford Hall, which is a Grade 1 listed building south of Grantham, fire damage, so we're sort of departing from the flood thing here, other than also a massive extinguishing waters used in the fire, which bring their own problems. And for a moment, from the client's point of view, the client is suddenly faced with a major historic building repair project. No warning, no planning, no preparation. They're looking at the loss of a significant building, but also looking at a prospect of loss of business. Stoke Rochford Hall was the centre point of the client's business as a management training centre. Overnight, they became clients for a multi-million-pound historic building repair project of incredible complexity. Stoke Rochford Hall, constructed 1841, Grade 1 listed, the architect was William Byrne, and it was typical of his, a very prolific architect in country houses, but very typical of his arrangements, with a service wing to the side and a front court. The building had been used in the Second World War by the War Department, and shortly after the war was taken over by the local authorities and teacher training college. And this is a use which continued right up until the date of the fire in 2005, where it was a management training centre, but still with strong educational links. The fire broke out on the 25th of January, which I think was actually Burns' night, unfortunately, 2005, in the clock turret. I can't point, but it's the bottom left of the screen. Is it on? Here. Good dot. Got down. There we go. The collapsing debris fell right through to ground floor. As you can see, roof down through the attics, first floor, and down to the ground floor. The focus of the fire brigade's approach, as we heard this morning, was really about making sure that life was saved, but then avoiding any spread of the fire. So they were playing water at the point in which the main mansion linked to the service wing, which luckily was the principal staircase, which was a shaft through the building. So pouring water through at that point, from their point of view, was a bonus. It wasn't from our point of view, obviously. But the fire then spread second floor level and back down into the principal rooms and took out all but one of the principal ground floor rooms. This is a view through the front entrance door, looking at the entrance hall, before and after the fire there, with the debris sort of 3 metres deep. The Turner and Rochford rooms, though, now on the garden elevation, again looking at the remains of the second and first floor structure on the ground floor, and the loss of 5 out of the 6 of the original overmantel mirrors. And here, looking into the library, this is the space which is on the right-hand side of the aerial photograph. Looking in, as we could only do then through the window, you can see the remains on the rear wall there of the decorative frieze, again with the remains of the upper floors piled down below. So this is immediately after the fire, but before the scaffold and protective roof was erected. But the process was very quickly about enabling an emergency works. These are lessons grade management contract intended to make areas safe so that we then go in to record the building. What was interesting is actually that in this situation, 20 days after the fire was extinguished, this central wall in the library, one of the 4 shafted stacks collapsed down into the building, which just made us think about what we were dealing with in terms of the stability of the structure above us. The enabling works involved a couple of cranes, one with a man basket, one with a skip, and eventually we were working from above, extracting debris until we got a safe access in a ground floor level. Salvage and recording, which was talked about this morning, and that becomes critical in terms of reinstatement, provide patterns, provide moulds. Any archive information is available. Again, that became invaluable in terms of repair. And this particular drawing, which is one of Bernard's originals, was the detail of the cast iron beams, which I'll talk more later. So where we could get to, fabric on the site, it was about recording this for repair, where it could be salvaged and where it couldn't, for use making moulds for replacement. Everything from this sort of plastic debris to bits of ironmongery. So then we get to the point where the building has been rendered relatively safe, and we're looking at the main contract repair works, putting the building back together. And there's some key questions which then the design team and the team as a whole need to address. This is a Grade 1 listed building, but as you can see, it was very much a shell. The first question was, should it be rebuilt? If it was to be rebuilt, should it be a historic or contemporary solution? Traditional modern materials and techniques? Is repair on a like-for-like basis? Is this even feasible? What are the financial constraints? What are the project constraints, program constraints? Well, financially, the like-for-like repair was budgeted about 20 million. And that's when we found out that the building was underinsured. And we had 12 million to spend. 2 of that had been taken by the scaffolding and the enablement works. So the main contract was a £10 million contract, in theory with a £20 million requirement behind it. And then in terms of programme, that was driven by the client's loss of business insurance, which was for 3 years. Luckily they had space to set up a temporary facility, but it was very much made clear to us that we had 3 years to get him back into the building. And they couldn't afford for it to go longer than that. So we have to look at what are the opportunities that are born out of this horrendous event. The issue of programme, the issue of cost, the issue just of is the craftsmanship available, start to sort of go into the melting pot. And we're looking at this as a team as a whole, so we're including the conservation officer, including English Heritage as it was then, in this decision making, because the establishing the strategy at this stage, this early stage, starts to inform all of the repairs and the detailing going forward. So the decision was to reinstate the principal rooms, the ground floor rooms, as the centrepiece of the building, as they had been before. But we also took the opportunity to improve business offer to include new conference facilities, bedroom accommodation at first floor level, and improve the attic spaces. So creating spaces there, bedroom accommodation, which actually hadn't been available before. So that ground floor reinstatement in the principal rooms is going to be a like for like. It's going to be a traditional materials and matching design of what has been lost. But we took the opportunity on the upper floors to go to more modern materials and solutions and take the opportunity to rationalise the spaces so that it became more efficient and more effective for the client's business plan. At roof level, you can just see actually, in simple terms, that involved a steel structure as the main roof frame rather than reinstating trusses. There's also gives opportunity to create an infilled area between what have been the two double pile pitches, so the two ridges. And by doing that, we were able to create a pantry. And that was essential, because as soon as we start talking ensuite bathrooms and extract, and the fact that originally the boiler for this building was 200 metres away, so it's a very long, cold leg on your pipework, and you're waiting for the showers at 1 in the morning. All those sort of little, seemingly little details, if you're going to make a business case for a sort of modern and current facility, these become key. But having said that, where you've got the modern structure, we reinstated, obviously, the timber joists, but also the sarking boards, the original detail being slate, broken down to sarking boards. We improved on that with battening, obviously insulation, ventilation, but ultimately the roof was reinstated with its Westmoreland slates, commission courses, varying widths, and following the course lines round from the surviving roofs either end of the building, which is a task in itself. You can also see here the number of chimneys which are reinstated, including the fluted ones, which were quite a feat of masonry. And the roof I mentioned, you can see that there was a requirement under the Supreme Consent that we didn't go above the ridge line. So you can just see either side of the picture, the ridges falling away to the south and north, and we've been able to create this additional space in that central valley. The criteria is not seen, it's not visible from ground level. So internally, as I've mentioned, much of the structure, in fact 100% of the structure in terms of floors, was sitting at ground floor level. And within that, there were a number of cast iron beams. As you saw from that original archive drawing, there were 48 of these beams scheduled in William Burns' design, 28 of which remain safely elsewhere in the building. And of the remaining 20 exposed following the fire, 7 had failed, leaving 13 in situ. One of which had started to develop what we felt was a possible fracturing due to rust patterns we were seeing coming through on the beams. So from our point of view as designers, this represented a sort of 40% failure rate. And how could we be sure that the beams which had survived in situ, although had been affected by the fire, would be load bearing and to stand slightly complicated, of course, by those which had been left in situ and survived the fire intact. Somebody had a very good go at putting holes in them in the past for routing services, which is not a good idea with cast iron beams. The idea of removing one of the beams, or all of the beams perhaps, to test them, really was not a viable proposition without dismantling an awful lot of masonry which had remained standing. And there was quite a debate with English Heritage over the approach we should take. We had one beam which had fallen during the fire, which was taken out to the compound, and this was still intact, and that was tested and it passed. but the question was, how could we rely on that one example being indicative of everything that was remaining? So, working with SFK, the structural engineers, we developed, or rather they developed, a system for testing the existing beams in situ. You can see here the 3 cast iron beams survived. Their proposal was to introduce new steelwork, therefore dividing the span of the secondary structure and releasing some of that load off the cast iron onto the new steelwork. Timber floor over the top, which was joisted at reduced centres with a plywood floor plate. So we effectively created a floor of perhaps twice the loading capacity it needed to be. And then above that, the room was completely filled with large water tanks, which were filled over the period of overnight, very slowly, to test the load of the floor. So I'm just going to 5 minute warning. It survived. It did the job, although obviously it's rather a meaty floor construction, and as a result we were able to retain those beams in situ. The ones which had obviously failed we took out, and we replaced this with a modern, again looking at opportunities, a modern cast concrete on steel shuttering floor. That gave us the benefits of fire compartmentation, gave us the benefits of acoustic insulation for the future, but also a working deck going up, and a much more cost-effective solution for tying the outer walls together. Ground floor, though, we were full traditional approach. So this is the walls, 3-coat lime hair plaster on riven soffit lath. Whilst on the upper floors we were looking at lightweight metal frame plasterboard solution, which again gave us acoustic insulation, gave us fire separation, but quite critically also reduced loading on some of those floors, particularly when we were keeping the cast iron beams. In terms of the ceilings, these have been a solid cast ceilings towards the end of the period of solid cast plasterwork, and incredibly heavy. I think that was probably the only panel, that's one of the panels from the front entrance hall, the only panel which survived. Other areas of 100% loss. But we had salvaged everything we could, referenced it, stored it for future reference, and we were able to redraw the ceilings. There was a reflective ceiling plan of every room. We had the benefit of a recently completed study of Burns' work, which happened to include some very good rectified photographs of the ceilings, which were incredibly beneficial. But again, the solution discussion with the whole team, there was a change to a fibrous cast plaster rather than a solid cast plaster, reducing load. There was a concern that there wouldn't be a single company within the country able to undertake this scope of work. I think we worked out it was 6 consolation plasters for 21 months to do all the ceilings which needed to be done. In the end, Stevenson's of Norwich did all of the ceilings and rightly won awards for their work. Joinery, very similar approach, although in this situation we had a number of specialist drawers. The library bookshelves had been lost completely, and we had to redraw those using archive images. And then we had the other extreme, which was light charring on panelling, and that work was spread over a number of different contractors. You see there's a great hall, whereas the elevation at the end, the right-hand side of that wall is all new, left-hand, slightly in shadow, is the existing. So the work's completed, on time, on budget, with its new roof, chimneys, windows, and full reinstatement of the entrance hall, repairs to the panelling, completely new ceiling, repairs to the fireplace. We don't take responsibility for the carpet though. The library, which I think has probably been one of the the grandest rooms in the building, with its new oak bookcases and its highly decorative ceiling. The Turner Rochford rooms we talked about, with their new gilt pier mirrors. And at first floor level, where we had three, I think the client think of the wedding suite, three primary principal bedrooms, but then also at the top corner at the left there, managing to create quite reasonable bedrooms out of the previous servants' quarters. And as a result of the works, the building received the RICS Building Conservation Award 2010, shortlisted for nationals. It's got the Stone Federation Awards, and as I said, the works by Stevenson's got the Plasterers Trophy for 2009. I think all well deserved.